Good day, everyone. I am Ricky Lipayo Rituya, BSED 2, Major in English, Section 1. And at this moment, I'm going to discuss my topic entitled Comic Strip. So, I'm going to start now. Who is your favorite superhero? In our minds, sometimes if we saw a movie casting superheroes, we can think easily that if we will become a superhero, what kind of superhero do we want to be? Well, all of this is just an illusion or an imaginary because, accordingly, all kinds of superheroes are just an imagination. Comic strip. A sequence of images arranged in an order to display brief humor or form a narrative. This means it is designed as an images in a certain magazine, newspaper, or even in a book. Where in fact, some of the comic strip is just a bound of collection of strips that deals typically in a single story or a gag. And it is collected over a varying period of time, and all of this will be published in a book. Just like, for example, a comics entitled Superman. I know that all of us are very much familiar with this because during late 80s or 90s, comics is one of our favorite reading habit. If we can see the title, then we are very excited and eager to see or to read the story. And in one comics, it only consists one chapter because it has many chapters to read. So, we will wait until the next day or week's new chapter will be published again because we want to know or we want to finish the story behind if what may happen in the next chapter. And some of them are very drawn in a comic artist and designed as a cartoon characters and that person who made that is called a cartoonist. And now, let's proceed to the history of a comic strip. Started in black and white in the 1920s, newspaper meant to be comical have been a way to tell a story, define culture, and express a social issue for years. So, comic strips are published in the late 19th century and early 20th century, in which began to appear the newspaper and Richard Fenton Outcault is generally make the first comic strip last 1986 entitled The Yellow Kid. Yellow Kid was the first creation of Richard Fenton Outcault's a newspaper comic and published late 1963-1928 and it was released on February 17, 1985. Richard Fenton Outcault's character and Yellow Kid first appeared in print Juicy Pulitzer's New York. Some of the examples of this are the cartoon character like Popeye, Captain Issei. Where can you find comic strips? Newspaper has a daily comic strip and a colored one on Sundays. Today, movies gain ideas from comic strips. Example, Marvel and DC Comics. So, present day comic strip can be found in every newspaper and many magazines. And they are typically published in a black and white in the newspaper editions from Monday to Sunday and in color in the Sunday edition. What makes an effective comic strip? First is an effective comic strip has a goal. So, if you will become an effective comic strip, make it sure that there is an objectives and vision in order that the reader can comprehend it well and will give his or her an interest of the story they read. You will put some imaginary creation that will lead into a better storyline and it must be clear and understandable of using some simple words so that it will be understood immediately by the reader. The second one, it is simple. In making a comic strip, it should be a simple one. It should not be complicated and therefore it is easy to understand. The third one, it has a background story and characters, meaning It includes the elements of the history and experience, such as family history, education, work experience, or even hobbies. The fourth one is two to three colors are used. To become an effective comic strip, it is very necessary to use two or three colors. You know why? Because putting or using two to three colors, it will arouse the interest of the reader because of the colors you put into that will give good attraction in the eyes of everyone, especially of making a comic strip using nice and attractive colors. The last one is an effective comic strip purpose is clear. It means you have to make the sentences or paragraph clearly so that it's easy for them to read and they can understand immediately. When it comes to characters, it should be clear also so that they can easily analyze and comprehend of what is being done or happened in the certain story. Brainstorming. This is very understandable for us if we are going to create or make a new comic strip or story because we can work out our own story, we can choose a character and also a place or setting, and the colors also we can decide what we want. What are the elements of a comic strip? Let's focus first on the five pictures that are probably the most important: image style, words and word containers, word image relationships, undrawn inferences, and layout. The element of comic strip are panel, gutter, tar, splash, spread, caption, and speech bubble. But probably there are five important features. Number one, image style. Comic strip use series adjacent drawn images, usually arranged horizontally, that are designed to be read as a narrative or chronological sequence. The story is usually origin in this form. Words may be introduced within or near each image, or they may dispense altogether. If words functionally dominate the image, it then becomes merely illustration to a text. The comic strip is essentially a mass medium printed in a magazine, a newspaper, or in a book. Number two, words and words containers. Most often in comic strip, words are combined with words framing conventions, speech bubbles, and caption boxes. Number three, word image relationship. Words have meanings independently of how they're drawn. Think about how the meaning of a set of words relates to the image they are part or next to. But there are four basic relationships to consider. Words and image can duplicate. When duplicate, the words and image around them communicate orally the same thing. This is the norm for children's picture books because the simplistic relationship helps with language acquisition. Illustrated version nursery rhymes like Jack and Jill went up the hill to pitch a pail of water. If you're not making children comic though, that redundancy is something to avoid. Words and pictures should it's bring something unique to their combination. Complement constructing meaning. This still adds something different, but those effects don't blend as smoothly. For example, if a caption box frames the word Joe watching sitcoms above an image of a figure sitting on a couch with a blank expression, the effect is more challenging. Viewers have to decide whether the verbal claim is true. Diverge meaning wandering along parallel but unrelated paths if the image of Joe is the next to the words. Waterways follows the path of least resistance. It may be difficult to draw any conclusions about how the statement relates to the drawing. Number 4. Undrawn inferences. This has something to with an imaginary images of a comic strip because the images that are being used in not yet being done. Inferences also occur between images. This is defining element of the comic's form. Since whatever else a comic might include, it must have at least two images and some relationship between them. The last one is the number 5. Layout is the arrangement of images on a page, usually in discrete panels. Frames of any shape through typically rectangular with gutters, traditionally white space between them. Through images may also be in sets of interpenetrating images. The last one is what makes a successful comic strip. The comic strip should build a punchline. It means characters should be clearly identifiable to the reader. They should remind you of someone you'd see in everyday life. You have also to decide a story that you want to publish. Decide what you want your story to be about. You have also to decide a panel on your format. You'll first need to decide how many panels you want to average if you want one row or two. For one row, strip like Garfield, 3 to 4 panels in the room. For a two row, comic strip like a cul-de-sac, 6 to 8, you can also find one panel comics and 3 row comics. Then, plan each panel. When you go to make an individual strip, write down and plan each panel. You need to know what is happening where, which characters will be included. A written script should be as bare bones as possible. Descriptions of necessary should be included if they are necessary to the action strip. Balance text images. Make sure that you aren't putting too much text on your panels. This can make the comic hard to read and enjoy. That would be all of my topic entitled Comic Strip.